Welcome to the Warbird Mistress. This is London Calling. Today is Thursday, 11th of July, 1940. If you were kept awake last night by sounds on the skies, you weren't alone. No combat was reported, but heavy air activity from Mr. Hitler was noted over Cornwall, Devonshire, and East Anglia, as well as off the coast of Yorkshire and around Portsmouth. Today has brought us bouts of thunderstorms and sunlight in the Midlands and North, while the Channel and much of southeastern England was overcast with a cloud base at 5,000 feet and fair visibility. In the early morning hours, Dornier 17 bombers were spotted flying reconnaissance, once more in search of our boys flying the Red Duster on the waves of the Channel, North Sea and Thames Estuary. Douglas Bader shot one down over Yarmouth in his Hurricane from 242 Squadron out of Coltishall, taking only light damage. Less fortunate was Squadron Leader Peter Townsend. The who, you might ask? He's one of our boys from 8-5 Squadron, that's who. He bailed out safely over Harwich when the DO-17 he was attacking returned fire. However, it was not before wounding 3 of the Vulture's crewmen. With orders to strike at dawn, 10 Stukas of 4 LG-1 took off from Cherbourg with an escort of 109s from 3 JG-27. Heading towards Limp Bay, they aimed to strike at Convoys Booty and Agent as they passed. On their return from a failed interception of a DO-17 on recon duty, 3 Hurricanes from 501 Squadron spotted them and were about to strike when the German escorts dove on the Hawkers, downing 1 and routing the other 2. A half-dozen Spitfires at Wormel from 609 Squadron scrambled to take over the fight. Though they and the escorts were at the same altitude, they were outnumbered 6-1. Our boys did manage to disrupt the Stukas, and no bomb struck any of the targets, but the Spitfires had to disengage before suffering any losses. Those Gull-winged devils weren't done for the day. At 11 o'clock, STG-2 Stukas also went after the Convoys Agent and Booty. Grow up. While over Portland, Hurricanes scrambled from 87, 238, 501, and 601 squadrons and engaged the enemy. First going after the BF-110 escorts from 3 ZG-76, the Hurricanes took down 4 of the twin-engine destroyers. Diving out of the midday sun, our mad dog Englishmen were led by squadron leader John Dewar, who took first blood as he shot down the lead butcher of the bunch, Oberleutnant Gerhard Kadow, in the first pass. Kadow crash-landed and was shot by our troops as he tried to destroy his aircraft. However, beating him to the honor of the first to die on our green hills was Hermann Göring. That's right, Jolly Hermann's nephew. Him and his gunner flew their 110 right into a cliff atop the Verne Citadel when being chased by our brave lads. They got his comrades too, as they chalked up 1 for the Windsors and scratched off 1 for the Kaiser's old bullies, when Leutnant Friedrich-Wolfgang Graf von und zu Castell was shot down trying to scare off Göring's pursuers. Let's see if the Görings and the Junkers back in Berlin can follow in their footsteps. 2 Stukas were also downed, with a third severely damaged in that engagement. The severely damaged one was forced to land at Saint-Anglever. Unfortunately, this was not before the other bombers could cost the patrol yacht Warrior II her life. Amazingly, despite over 50 aircraft attacking, only a single casualty was suffered aboard the veteran yacht. Before the day was out, Jerry had 1 more burst in him when at 17:15 hours a dozen Heinkel 111s from KG-51 and KG-55 flew overhead. Escorted by just as many Messerschmitt 110s of 3 ZG-76, they were bound for Portsmouth and her valuable naval, merchant, and military assets. Scrambled from numbers 601 and 145 Squadron, Hurricanes managed to meet the enemy before he dropped his eggs, and took down 3 of the bombers with the loss of only a single Hurricane. Unfortunately, the remaining Heinkels dove to evade the fighters and managed to hit dockside targets, sink 3 barges, and damage the French Aviso Savignon de Brazza, a sloop meant for colonial service that had been captured on 3 July and given over to a mixed Free French and British crew under French command. The Hun's other Heinkels were less humane in their targets as they struck at the town of Portsmouth, killing 29 civilians and injuring another 26. Unfortunately, a second Hurricane was also lost, but alas, it was to friendly Akak. Total losses for the Boche today were 17 aircraft and 41 pilots and aircrew. Britain lost 6 aircraft and 3 airmen. Sergeant Frederick J.P. Dixon was drowned when flying Hurricane P-2485 of No. 501 Squadron. Dixon was a veteran of the French campaign and was a native of Clitheroe, Lancashire. He was hit by gunfire from Oberleutnant Friedrich-Wolfgang BF-109 from 3JG-27 when 10 miles off Portland. He would bail out, but an intense search still failed to find any trace of him. His body will wash ashore on Olt on the Somme coast some weeks from now. Pilot Officer Gordon T.M. Mitchell was drowned when his Spitfire L-1095 of No. 609 Squadron was lost at sea. Born in Ceylon and late of the University Air Squadron, he had removed himself to Sarawak after reading law and economics at Leys and Queen's at Cambridge. Shot down in combat by BF-109 over the channel off Portland when protecting the convoy. His body washes ashore in a few days at Newport on the Isle of Wight. And finally, Spitfire L-1069 of No. 609 Squadron was also lost at sea. Flight Lieutenant Philip Henry Barron was trying to reach the coast after sustaining heavy damage in combat by BF-109s over a convoy in the channel off Portland. He was rescued by one of our boats, but died of burns before he could reach shore. Despite having been a pilot in the Auxiliary Air Force for some years, his combat training was limited to the RAF's 10-day air fighting course, which he attended in late November 1939. And that is all for tonight. Thank you, and good night. Thank you for tuning in to the Warbird Mistress. This is London Calling, a day-by-day detail of the Battle of Britain, and I hope that you subscribe, watch the playlist for new editions, and do check out other offerings on this channel. Subscriptions through Patreon and YouTube are more than welcome to keep this channel going. Thank you and take care.